G'day guys, Mudsy here from Muay Thai Interviews again, and my next guest I'm really excited to speak to. He owns his own gym in Bangkok with his wife and her brother John Pop called Kea Pong Tip. He commentates on Max Muay Thai 5 nights a week. He's the foreign ambassador for Muay Thai, and he's pretty much a walking, talking encyclopedia when it comes to Muay Thai. I'm joined by Rob Cox. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. You?
Mate, I'm well. Thank you for agreeing to have a chat with me.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
I feel like I'm talking to Muay Thai royalty here.
I'm a bit of a sad bastard, really. In all the reality, everyone says Muay Thai royalty, but the reality is I'm a bit of a, I don't know, train spotter type.
Not at all, mate.
Obsessed with Muay Thai. I've been obsessed with Muay Thai probably for more than too long, for my own good, really. But it is what it is.
Mate, you've done very well out of it. I'm jealous, put it that way. Now, mate, you've been coming to Thailand for over 25 years now, and
That's right.
You've completely immersed yourself in the Thai culture, and in particular Muay Thai. What was it about the art of 8 limbs that appealed to you so much? Because I know you have previously trained in other forms of martial arts.
I think it's just the whole. I don't know whether it's the complete package or what, but I got into Muay Thai because I was kind of playing around with a few other martial arts. I was doing Wing Chun at one point, and just purely by picking up some of the magazines back in England. There was Fighters magazine, and it was kind of around the start of when it was really starting to get known in the West. You know, people like Master Toddy in England, and you had the Dutch guys like it was kind of just before Ramon Deckers really got famous. You had Rob Cox and people like that. There was Ronnie Green in England. There were some very good French fighters at the time, and I kind of saw some articles in there, and it just kind of got me interested. I've never seen it before, and I went along to a gym in London, a class in London, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I don't know if it's, it's just got everything. It's fast paced, the beauty of it, the violence, the kind of the drama, you name it. I think that's probably what gets most people into Muay Thai. It's just that excitement level and style. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of got everything for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, a drama as well. I trained for a little bit. I fell in love with the training straight away. Then I went to watch some shows, and in hindsight now, the shows I went to look at in London or back in the day, they weren't very good. The level wasn't very good, but to me then it was kind of like, wow, yeah, this is what it's all about. And then a little bit after that, I discovered Thailand and Lumpini and Ratchaman, and that was it then. That was hook, line and sinker. There was no going back after that.
Yeah, definitely, mate. You would have. I was going to say, going from watching, fairly amateur shows in England and then going to the big stadiums, that would have just blown your mind.
Yeah,
I reckon.
Yeah, oh yeah. I think I first started doing Muay Thai. Hold on a minute. Would be around about 1980, 88, 89. And then I first came to Thailand about 91, so 1991. So it was a big shock to the system when I first went to Thailand as well, and saw the fights. From having seen fights in the West, and I'd seen some Thais come to England and fight, but it wasn't the same.
No, definitely not. Definitely, and you can't find that atmosphere anywhere else in the world, and you probably never will.
No, that's right. I mean, I still, even now, I still sometimes get the hairs on the old back of the neck go up when you get the crowd really going for it. But I still remember the first trip I made. It was like 1991. It was kind of the golden era then. So there was huge crowds as well, and the noise. I'll never ever forget it.
Definitely, brother. And mate, living in Thailand, training and fighting, I suppose it was only natural for you and just a matter of time to open up your own gym, which you did with your wife and her brother. And you called the gym Kea Pong Tip. Would you be able to explain how you come up with the name and what that means?
Well, basically, it's obviously my wife's brother John, he'd already been around as well. I kind of met her via him. It was kind of a strange coincidence. So I was living in the northeast at the time, and I moved back down to Bangkok to work at a famous gym called Kea.
Yeah.
And the very first week I went there, he joined there as a boxer. So I kind of just started to go and watch him fight, and might have and bumped into his sister there, and one thing led to another over quite a long period of time, you know. But so he was already an established fighter, and the gym had been going for maybe, or at least 10 years or so before I met them. But the word Geert, when you see a lot of the gyms will use that in front of their names in Thailand. Geert is basically, it kind of means the pride of.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, say, Geert Yongyut Gym. The owner's name's Yongyut, so it's the pride of Yongyut. Or Kea Pong Tip, Pon's the village right down in the deep south of Thailand where my wife's family's from. So it was kind of like the pride of Pon village, if you understand what I mean.
Yep.
And Tip just kind of got added on to the end. It's kind of like to make it a bit more polite or a bit more special. It's not really got a real meaning. It just kind of jazzes it up a bit, I suppose. Really makes it sound a bit more important, the name. But it's basically the pride of Pon village, which is the village in the south where they're all from, where the gym originally started 20 plus years ago, I think now.
Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, great. And your gym's going as strong as ever, mate.
Yeah, it's going all right. You know, running a gym is never easy in Thailand. People kind of say, "Oh, you got your own gym? That must be amazing." Yeah, it can be. there's moments of amazingness, and there's also a lot of moments where it's not amazing. So, but it's going all right. We've got some good young fighters coming through. We've got one young lad that's had ranked to the stadium at the moment. It's doing, but he's being predicted as being a potential superstar. So, but it's never easy. You never know how they're going to turn out. You know.
And mate, speaking of that, you currently have a lad at the gym called Sam Goff, who is
that's right.
He's training for his world title fight against Australia's own Toby the Weapon Smith, and he's been on an absolute tear lately. What do you think? Right. What do you think Sam brings to the table in this fight?
Sam's young. He's hungry. He's been living here now for probably about a year. He's since he's been here, he's come on. Got stronger and stronger, so he's very tall as well. I mean, you remember Toby's last fight? Was it his last fight against Jakub?
Yep.
So Sam's probably about as tall, or maybe just a little bit shorter than Jakub. So he brings that height. He's got a very good Thai style, dangerous with his elbows, strong knees. Obviously, you know, we're under no illusions. It's Toby Smith. It's not going to be an easy fight by any means, and Sam's definitely going to be the underdog. But he'll be coming to fight, you know. So, and you never know in a Muay Thai fight, anything can happen. It's a big chance for Sam. It's one we couldn't say no to, you know. He wants to fight the best and be tested and he wants to be the best, seen as the best at some point. He's only very young still, don't he? He's only 22.
Yeah.
But he's had over 30 fights now. He's tough. He's got very good style. So it should be an interesting fight. One thing I will say is, both of them cut easily. You know, you've seen Toby in a few of his last fights. There's been a lot of blood. Sam's been in a few fights. There's been a lot of blood as well. So one thing they need to sort out before the fight is they need to make sure the paramedics have got a lot of stitching. They call it? The sutures. Because I predict there's a very good chance it'll be a bloodbath. It won't be one for the. I don't think it'll be one for the squeamish. Sam's been cut more than a few times. He loves fighting on Max for that reason alone, I think, because they get a big stitch bonus at Max. So he's earned himself a few quid there before with that. And Toby's been cut a few times as well. So I predict blood in this fight.
Well, I was going to say I don't think it's a Toby Smith fight if he doesn't get cut.
Yeah, it's kind of similar with Sam. So. Like I say, make sure the paramedics have got a lot of stitch, a lot of thread, because they're probably going to need it.
And so, who have you got going over for that to corner him? Obviously, you can't.
I can't go. We've actually. He's going over on his own, but I mean, Sam's cool with that, and we've got quite good connections with some gyms there. We've actually got very good connections with Blair in the pit. You know, he sends his lads to us, and we've got a couple of his lads coming to us more or less straight after the fight, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But you know. That's how it should be. It's a sport. They're going there to get in there to have a fight, and that's it. It's not, you know, it's not a war or anything like that. But we've got good connections with Darren as well. He sends quite a lot of his boys from Riddlers to us. So you get a few guys from there down. They all know Sam. They've all trained with him here. So Darren will look after him. You know, I've got 100% faith that he'll be looked after very well by them. So he's going to go on his own, basically. It makes it easier for the promoter as well, you know, not having to shell out for tickets. And if we sent one of the Thais, it's going to be, is he going to get a visa or not? So the easiest option was to let Darren look after him.
Well, mate, I can, I don't know him personally, but I've seen many of his fight shows and I've met him a couple of times. But yeah, he'll no doubt be well looked after.
Yeah.
And mate, you did touch on it. Being a gym owner, it can often be rewarding, but it also has its pitfalls. With your own experiences with your gym, Kea Pong Tip in Thailand, what are some of the some of the highs and lows that you have experienced?
Oh, I mean, we've had kind of many highlights, you know, when the fighters do well, you know, it's always a buzz. And when you bring, you know, I've kind of always been, I don't know, not old-fashioned, but kind of old school in the sense of I don't like to go on in there and force the gym down people's throats and, you know, kind of blow it up to more than it is. But when I get kind of like my enjoyment through bringing the young fighters through, them getting a good reputation. You know, for example, we had one young lad, and he was fighting on one Songchai Promotions, which is the biggest promotion in Thailand, or biggest name. Songchai is the legend, you know. And all these fighters tend to be they have to be good quality to fight on the shows. And we had this one young kid from the south, and he fought and beat a few good names on the circuit around Bangkok. But he hadn't fought in the main stadiums yet. Or he'd had one fight at Lumpini, and it was kind of, he got called in at late notice, and he gave up like 2 or 3 kilos, and he lost on points to this kid. He was just too small, you know. Yeah. But so then they put him in with this. There was a guy called Gintan Lek, who was making a really big name for himself about 3 years ago, and there was an opponent of his called Rung Tak Noi, who was very good. And he's like juniors, and they're kind of seen as 2 of the best fighters in Thailand. And our young kid, he's kind of gone in, and they've matched him up with to fight this Rung Tak Noi at Ratchaman. And they're kind of, oh, do you think he'd be all right? Yeah, no, we want to fight him. We want to fight him. And the promoter's a little bit worried. Is he going to, you know, because they can get stiff from the fans if they put on a match and it's a mismatch. Yeah. The gamblers are upset. They've paid money to go in, and they've seen a non-event. They haven't been able to gamble. So it's always a bit of a risk for them putting on unknown fighters. And I know all the guys from the press, the Muay Thai guys. Some of them are good friends. Some of them can be a bit, you know. And one of them, he's one of the writers, and he's a bit of a pain, you know. And it's not just with our gym, but the other gyms. You know, some of his recommendations on the fight. And anyway, I've seen him outside the stadium. They said, "Oh, Robert, what's he doing? Who's this kid? I've never heard of him." I said, "Oh, yeah, I know you will after the fight." And he's like, "Oh, it's Rung Tak Noi. It's Rung Tak Noi. Do you know who he is?" I said, "Yeah, we know who he is." And he's got, you know, basically, there's a few other people standing around, and they're all like looking like, you know, not looking down, but he's kind of like, "Yeah, we'll see, you know." And then, of course, he gets in the ring, and he beat him by a mile. Our boy beat him, and, you know, afterwards the promoters, one of the promotion teams, just grabbed hold of me, literally dragged me. Where the hell did he come from? Bloody hell, you know, and things like that is what gives me the buzz, you know. Yeah. More than you know, anything else really. We had one young boy. We took him to Japan. He won a WBC title. We had a guy win the Ratchaman title. All that kind of thing is what makes it for me. You know, getting that recognition. But the downsides, I mean, you know, there's loads of them. It's, you know, Thailand's a rapidly developing country. They've got a lot of problems, social issues, what have you. And with the young boxers, they can go off the rails quite easy. So we've had all sorts of problems with some of the young boxers. You know, the one boxer I just mentioned there, his family got involved and got in his head. So we had issues with him and his family. We've had issues with drugs. It's like, you know, the big meth problem in Thailand, you name it, you know. Yeah. It's not so much of a problem. We don't get so many big problems with the foreigners that come and train, but, you know, same again, you get issues, you know, you get attached to people come to the gym. We like to treat people here like family, and, you know, people come and stay for a little while, and you get attached, you know, and then they go off, and then someone gets in their head, oh, this is new gym, it's so blah, 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 and then they go off to another gym, and you're kind of like, oh, what did we do wrong there? You know, so you've got all kinds of little things that niggle away. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely. But we've had, you know, a few issues like that. We've had problems you can get anywhere in life as well. You know, that when you're running the gym and you've got a lot of different people coming from around the world, not everyone always sees eye to eye. So we've had a few issues in the past with that as well. So, but nothing too major. But there are definitely, you know, pitfalls to running the gym. You know, it's not all oh great, you know, you're there and the fighters are winning, and you know, everyone's patting you on the back. There's plenty of lows, dips and lows, as well as the highs. You know.
Definitely. And do you reckon it's much harder running a gym in Thailand than it would be running a gym back in your own country?
It all depends on how you run the gym, you know. I think if you're running a gym in Phuket or Samui or somewhere and you're kind of just looking after tourists and people coming in, paying, training and going home, then it's maybe not as bad. You know, it's probably more similar to a gym. But when you're trying to look after 10 or 12 Thai teenage boys that are away from home and they're going through the hormones and growing up, and you're kind of like surrogate parents, it can be very hard work, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And mate, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions in regards to, I watched an interview you did with Muay Thai Journal. That was probably about 5 years ago now.
That's right.
But regarding that interview, you said that fighters back in the golden era earned twice as much as fighters today. Why is that? And how do you think the fighters of today could earn more money? Like, what do you think needs to be done?
I mean, basically, it's a matter of popularity of the sport. You know, I've mentioned before about the gambling kind of issues and the hold the gamblers have on the sport. It's kind of like it's kind of in a catch-22 situation now, where it's the promoters in the stadiums, they have to appease the gamblers, because if they don't appease them, no one else will come. Whereas back in the golden era, you actually had more people gambling, but they didn't have such a hold on the sport.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And there was such bigger crowds. You could go in, I remember going in like back in 91, 92, and you go in ringside and there'll be the only me and maybe 10 other foreigners. And now you go ringside at Lumpini or Matcham, and that's all there is ringside. It's foreign tourists. There's maybe 3 Thais that are sat ringside, and the rest are all in the gambling section, you know. So they're massively reliant on foreigners, tourists going to watch the fights every night, you know. The Thai crowd is drastically dropped. No one goes to watch a fight now just because, for example, franchise fighting, I don't know, Pet Bunchu. Oh, I've got to see that fight. I'm going to go and watch it. No one does that. They'll go because they're regular gamblers. That's pretty much the entire crowd now for the Thais, you know. If they're not gambling on it, then they're not going to go. So they've kind of lost a huge chunk of people that used to go and watch the fights just to watch, you know, like people would in the West, to go and watch a game of football or, you know, a game of rugby, you know. There's not that kind of crowd there anymore. So the crowds have dropped drastically. So obviously there's not that same money to pay the fighters.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you think that they could entice the crowds to go, or do you think that's just been... it is what it is because, you know, you've got technology, people can watch it on TV, they can watch live streams.
I mean, they had times when, it wasn't that long ago, when they banned mobile phones in the stadium. You couldn't take a phone in, you know, you had to, there was almost like a lost property department or a coat room, you know, like you have at a nightclub. Go and hand your coat and you get a ticket. You go and hand your mobile phone in and they give you a ticket. This was probably about 15, 16 years ago, just to try and counter the loss of people like, oh, right, well, why do I want to go and watch the fights? I can listen on the radio or listen on the phone and phone my bookie up and put a bet on, you know. So they actually banned mobile phones at one point, but I mean, now it's just, you know, that's virtually impossible, you know. But I don't know how they get, you know, I don't know how they do it, to be honest. If anyone had the answers to that, they could probably make a lot of money, you know. It's like I said, it's a catch-22. It's kind of, I think they know that where the problems are, but dealing with them and kind of is another matter. The whole kind of judging issues and, you know, like I say, the power that the gamblers have over the stadiums and the promoters now, they're kind of scared to upset them, you know. They're not happy with the decision. All right, if in terms of like you watching it or me watching it, I could watch a fight and think, well, under proper Muay Thai scoring rules, Red Corner should have won that. He did win it, but the gamblers had Blue ahead for whatever reasons, because they thought he was the stronger of the two, blah blah blah. They had him much. They thought Blue should have won, so there's an outcry. And then they're going to storm out of the stadium. They're not going to go back in the stadium, and it's kind of like, oh, well, you know, how do you control that? You know, how do you say to them, like, well, no, it was judged, this is how it should be judged, you know? It's almost impossible, you know?
Yeah, because I've always sometimes laughed to myself when you watch it on TV or you watch it at the stadium and you see at the end of each round the referee gets the ticket from the judge. So the judge, and I'm just thinking to myself, why do they even bother? Because I've watched fights, as you said, and I'm like, I'm sure, like, I thought blue won, but obviously red's won, and I just think, well, what's the point of the referee getting the ticket from the judges anyway? It doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, well, they don't know. I mean, that tends to, in the main stadium, that tends to be only with title fights where they'll collect it at the end of every round. But I mean, some places collect every round. Now, Max do it, so it's kind of, you can get a bit of a more of an idea of who should have won, you know, that way. But if they're kind of doing it properly to the book, you know.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to ask you from that interview is, like you said, the gamblers, they do have a big hold on the outcomes of fights, and it's still quite prevalent today. But you also mentioned sometimes, in order for gamblers to have outcomes of fights, they will drug fighters to sway the outcome. Have you ever witnessed anything like that firsthand?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, that's kind of been prevalent for a long time now. I mean, when it kind of happens, there was a case with Sangmani not too long ago. There was a case with Sexan and Pet Lutong. They were from the same gym, and that kind of really got a bit of interest, not just from around the world, but from the Thais as well. There was like, because one of them collapsed while he was being interviewed on TV, and they had to rush him back. He was all right. He came back no problem afterwards. But at the time, it was kind of like it was a dramatic, shot for the TV. And I remember the show afterwards, the very next day or 2 days afterwards, the stadium was packed with TV reporters, and they're asking me to be interviewed. What do you think of it as a Westerner? And it's kind of, the Thais hadn't realised themselves how the Muay Thai scene was anymore. You know, it was kind of like they kind of lost touch with it, and it was kind of a shock to the Thais as well. You know, but it's been going on for a long, long time. I remember sort of 17 years ago, and I was living up in Ubon at the time, and I came down to Bangkok, you know, and one of their fighters from the gym I was at was fighting at Channel 7, and it was kind of like, you know, it was, you don't take your eye off the bag of water there, and, you know, you make sure you buy it from somewhere that people don't know or don't expect you to go and buy it. You know what I mean? There's one of the trainers, he had to be there the whole time with the boxer, make sure no one came up to him and gave him a drink. Yeah. And then he had to keep an eye on the bucket where they had the drink for the water for him that they prepared earlier. So whatever you do, don't take your eye on him. That was 17 years ago, you know, and it's been like that ever since. But I had one of my own fighters, and it was kind of strange. It was, I mean, we don't know for sure. It's not that easy to test, you know, whether they have or have not been drugged, you know. But one of my fights, and the biggest problem with it, the main ones where it happens the most, is the TV ones like Channel 7, Channel 3, Omni Stadium. Yep. That's when you really have to be careful, because there's, you know, so much more betting all over the country. There's like, you know, although it's illegal, it goes on. You know, there's places that set up a TV screen, and they even charge tickets some places, and you know, there's that much more of an opportunity for the gamblers and the guys that do it to really make money. You know, if they can kind of dope a guy before he's fighting on one of the TV shows. And we had a boy fighting at Channel 3, and he was in a tournament, quite a lot at stake. And I remember now, I've turned up, and his actual promoter, he's a Ratchman promoter, he's a friend of mine, called me up and said, Robert, he said, how is he? How's your boxer? Is he all right? He's, all the words going around, he's been doped. Everyone's saying he's been doped. And I said, well, I don't think so. He said, oh, can you find out? Because I want to bet a lot of money on him. And I'm like, okay, all right. I walked around and said, how are you? You feel all right? Everyone's saying you've been doped. He's like, no, I'm all right. I'm fine. No problem at all. Anyway, I called him back. Yeah, he's all right, mate. Don't worry. Put your bet on. And he went on to win. No problem. But we had another boy fighting on the same card. And before the fight, this other boy, they have this kind of, you know, the Nam Dang, the red syrupy drink they drink. Yeah. Where it's like, put it in with soda water and ice. And this other kid had some of that. And he'd said to our boxer, the one that they thought had been doped, said, do you want some of this? And he's kind of like, he's going to take it. No, I'm all right. And anyway, the other boxer's drunk it. And he fought after the other kid, and he fought, but he wasn't on the main TV part of the fight. Yeah. He was on kind of like the closing fights after the TV broadcasts had finished, and he won on points. But he said halfway through the fight, his legs felt rubbery. He just felt really tired. He could hardly, and he just didn't feel right. And for about 3 days afterwards, he was kind of in like a zombie almost, wanted to sleep and just didn't feel right. And so what we think, you know, maybe happened is they've gone to dope the one that was fighting in the tournament, and they've given it to the wrong kid by mistake, dear. You know. And And luckily he still won anyway. But you know, it's you know, you have to be on your guard all the time, and there's certain places at times go through stages of it. The old Lumpini had one period where there was kind of, it happened a few times in a row, and there was kind of like suspected one of the restaurants, and maybe someone inside was involved. Who knows? You know, Ratchaman's had problems with it sometimes. The Setsan case was a real kind of dominant one, obviously because of the furore it created in Thailand. You know, it's kind of people from outside Muay Thai scene were suddenly aware of it. You know. But there's been so many stories of it, you know, guys going into 7-Elevens where the boxers drink, and they'll follow they'll follow them around a little bit. And one of the gyms, this guy caught the guys gone in the 7-Eleven. He's kind of sussed it out, and he's gone and grabbed them, or he's seen them hanging around suspiciously outside the stadium the morning they're weighing, and they've caught him, and he's confessed he had a gang of them, and they've done it about 3 or 4 times before, when they've gone into 7-Elevens near the gym and kind of doctored the water or the sponsor, you know. And another trick they'll use is they'll get a pretty girl, you know, and they'll you know, offer her some money or something, you know. She wants, oh, do you want a new phone? Yeah, I'll give you so much money if you can go and get friendly with that boxer there, and then give him this drink, you know, to drink. Yeah. And you know, the boxers are young kids, you know. Sometimes they're a bit green, see a pretty young girl, they're kind of like, oh, she likes me, you know. Next thing you know, they're having a drink or something, and they're in trouble, you know. So it's one of the sad parts, you know. Unfortunately, gambling is it brings a lot of different things to the table. It brings the excitement for the sport, you know, when the gamblers are there and they're all betting on the fighters, and there's that lift from them as the fighters coming from behind, and all the guys and they're cheering them on. It brings that kind of excitement, but it brings all the kind of corruption and the amount of money that's involved. It brings all the negatives as well. So it's, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's 2 stories that come to mind for me. There's one, because my wife is Thai as well. She told me there was one. I think it was either earlier on this year or at the end of last year. There was one where there was a Thai boxer, and he'd fought some bloke before and he'd beaten him easily, and then he had a rematch like later on and he lost. And someone and his gym thought that he threw the fight, so I think his trainer or someone locked him in the gym and was like whipping him and kept him hostage for a few days. And then there was the other one, which I think it was at the end of last year, where a referee or a judge was on his way to Lumpini, and some bloke on a scooter with a helmet just shot him bang during the daytime.
That was the head of chief of the judges. That was it. He never got shot himself. It was kind of it was a warning basically, and it's kind of standard procedure in Thailand. You get it outside the stadium sometimes. Any walks of life, you know, if you have a grievance with someone and they've got a bit of power, they'll pay someone to just give you a crack over the head with a bit of wood, basically a stick, you know. And that's what happened to the referee. The guy had lost a lot of money and he wasn't happy, and or that's what they think anyway. And he's kind of turned up at the stadium and he's walked out, and guys jumped off the bike. It's almost a 2-man job, you know. The guy on the back of the bike jumps off with a stick, cracked him over the head, and as he's kind of run to grab him, one of the security guards went to grab him and get involved as well, the stadium security guards, and the guy that was driving the bike pulled a gun out and shot the security guard. So the poor security guard's probably on, you know, peanuts, you know, not involved in it at all, and he's got shot dead for, you know, over the sake of this guy not being happy because he's lost a bet. You know, that's the sad, unfortunate side of the sport, you know. And like you say, you hear about boxers taking dives and trainers. There's so many stories that, you know, I could tell you that I've heard over the years, you know. Very similar. I've heard of stories of guys, boxers taking a dive, suspected of taking a dive, and, you know, maybe they didn't. You know, they might have been sick or whatever. Who knows the reason? And I've heard stories of one that was taken away to a beach, and the owner of the gym got someone to hold a gun to his head and till he confessed. And, you know, if someone's got a gun to your head, you're going to, in the end, you know, you sort of, what do you do? You tell them what they want to hear, and they let him go and say, right, that's it, you're never going to fight again, you know. And then he's kind of like, well, I didn't do it, you know, but they held a gun to me. So it's kind of, you know, it can be a little bit of a seedy world at times, you know.
It most definitely can be, mate.
And with the drugs as well, though, with the drugging of the boxers, a lot of the times someone, you know, they all say it's always, very often it's someone very close to the boxer. So it could well be a trainer, you know. And they'll always the trainers will be under suspicion straight away, you know, because sometimes the boxers will go out, the gyms will go out their way to stop it happening, and the only way to do it is someone close to them. I've heard stories of people's boxers' fathers doing it, you know.
That's sad.
The father's gambling mad, only thinks about money, you know. It's or relatives or some, or even friends, you know, down on their luck. Someone's offered them a bit of money to, you know, clear their problems. And another another kind of catch-22 situation is all the boxers are involved in. They're all growing up in an environment where it's gambling involved, and and they're close to gamblers. They're close to. There's a gambling culture, not just about Muay Thai, about football, you name it. And sometimes the boxers get in debt. You know, they gamble themselves and they get in debt. And one way to clear the debt is to, if they've got a debt, the gamblers are clever. They're, oh yeah, you can bet. You know, I'll give you a bit of credit. You know. Yeah. And next, you know, they run up a big bit of credit. It's well, if you want to clear it, here's a way out. You know, and it's kind of like, you know, they're in a kind of situation where they don't know where to turn now, and it's easily done. Then, you know.
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Sometimes.
Yeah.
And just one more question in regards to that interview you did with Muay Thai Journals. At the time, you said you weren't sure which way Muay Thai was going to go in Thailand. So that was about 5 years ago, that interview was. So what are your thoughts on it now, and where do you see it heading in the future in terms of longevity?
Well, you know, you'd have to be very, very naive to say it's got better since then. You know, it's not particularly getting any better in terms of crowds and what have you. There's been a few of the purses have gone up a bit at times, but you know, then you have issues with some of the judging and so people not bothering to go anymore. You know, a lot of people I know, trainers, I'm like, I can't be bothered to gamble anymore. It's too hard now. You never know who's going to win. You know, it's like, so it's they need to kind of address it. But it's like anything in the world. It's always going to change. You're always going to go through change. I don't think it's never going to go away totally. You know, there's too much at stake for that. But there's, with new things like Max and Thai Fight, and now you've got promotions from overseas now coming and get involved. Like tonight in Lumpini, we've got the Phoenix promotion. So I think it's gonna go off in different directions a bit. You've already seen it with Max Muay Thai when it first came on the scene. The TV ratings went up through the roof because people were kind of like enjoying watching fights that were kind of entertaining and not just purely kind of revolved around the gamblers. So that was very popular. You know, I think things like that are going to come on and change things a little bit, and it's maybe going to go off more back to more entertainment based, maybe with certain promotions. And you know, I think it's still going to keep going. It's getting bigger around the world, so you know, the Western influence is going to have a bit more of a dynamic, I think, in the future as well. You know, you're going to see probably more Western fighters getting opportunities to fight for the stadium belts and what have you.
Yeah, and over the years, no doubt you've witnessed a lot of change in Thailand in regards to Muay Thai. So what are some of the changes that you're happy about, and what are some that you're still not too pleased about, or that you still think could need improving?
Obviously, you know, I think it's great to see that there's more new promotions coming through, like Max and what have you. Not just saying that because I work for them, but it's just, you know, it's the more the merrier for me. Also, I think, you know, the boxers are probably maybe getting a little bit more control over themselves. A little bit, you know, back in the past, you hear some horror stories about the manager going and take the money after the fight, and you know, the boxer sometimes didn't even know how much they were earning. Whereas now they brought in a rule about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, where the boxer has to go and collect 50%, which is the rules of the sport, and then the manager goes and collects his 50%. So there's kind of a bit more fairness crept in to the fighters as well, which I think is good. You know, I think it's good to see that more and more Western promotions are looking to, you know, put on proper full Muay Thai, pure Muay Thai as well. The likes of Phoenix and other promotions that are coming in now, which is all good as well.
Yeah, Phoenix, I even read they've introduced mandatory drug testing now.
I don't know about that, but I mean, if they have, then it's good, you know.
All right, and are you a fan of the 3 rounds or 5 round fights, and why?
I'm a fan of both, to be honest with you. I think they've both got plus points. They've both got negative points. So I enjoy a 5-round fight. I enjoy a 3-round fight. It all depends who's fighting, obviously. I like, I mean, my favourite show now for me in a week is the Saturday show at Max, where they have a 4-man tournament. You know, because there's that bit of drama and, you know, fighting 2 fights in one night, 3 rounds. I enjoy that, you know. But I could still, you know, I love to sit down and watch a 5-round fight as well, like the next man. You know, I've not really got a preference, to be honest with you.
And how do you feel that the refereeing in Western countries is and because they are judged differently?
Yeah.
So how do you feel? Do you feel that the what's the word I'm looking for? The level of there we go. The level of refereeing in Western countries, is it, in your expert opinion, are you happy with it, or do you still feel that it's got a little way to go?
Oh, I think it can improve, definitely. You know, I mean, there's no real, I don't think there's probably a real standard yet, is there? You know, certain countries, like for England, for example, you know, there's some very knowledgeable people there, Tony Myers, that have kind of gone in and tried to teach people the kind of the proper Muay Thai scoring and that kind of thing. Whereas other countries, you know, you know, you don't know what they're scoring on when you watch some of the fights, you know.
Yeah.
There's a few fights I've watched maybe from America or whatever, and I've just come away scratching my head afterwards at the decisions, you know. But so yeah, that could definitely be improved upon. But that's going to take a lot of work, and it's got, you know, even in England, you know, there's always constant bicker about that. You know, people saying, oh yeah, well, why should we judge it like the Thais, all the corruption and the gambling there? Well, that's an excuse really, because you know, they're teaching them in England to score how Muay Thai should be should. Excuse me. Sorry, I've got a train going past.
That's all right.
I live right next to the main train line that goes to Bangkok, right down to the south to Malaysia. So every now and again I get a big train going past, as we just said there. Yeah, but going back to the, you know, people kind of, those that kind of still are living in the past a little bit and think everyone should just be throwing punches and low kicks, that they kind of use that as an excuse. Oh, we shouldn't be scoring about like Thais, you know, why should blah, blah, blah. But they're not making the effort to really try and understand it. And that's your problem everywhere, you know. You need a lot of like-minded people to really sit down and kind of, you know, take the ball by the horns and get them to agree. I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, you know. But I mean, speaking from England, it's even there. Although they've got the judging a lot better, it still has a lot of problems. You know, people agreeing with how it should be done. And
yeah, I think Australia, we're okay, but we can always have improvements, and it just seems to me anyway that some states will prefer clinching, other states won't really take that into account. They prefer more punching and kicking, and it's not really it's not all synonymous, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So but I mean, we're improving, we're getting better, but yeah, there's always improvements to be made. And over the years, we've seen Westerners being able to adapt their style to fight in the big stadiums in Bangkok and win. Do you think Thais have adapted as well when they go and fight internationally because of the scoring and judging is different in different countries?
I would probably say no to that one. I mean, I think with the Westerners adapting, that's the case of just getting more knowledgeable about the sport and how it's scored, you know, and people coming to Thailand, training in Thailand a lot. Whereas I think a lot of times with the Thai, some will do it, they'll adapt a bit, you know, but for them it's kind of, it's a payday, you know, so they'll go over looking to earn a bit of money, and it's kind of like, I don't think they put too much work into how the fight's going to be scored. Am I going to get, you know, outscored here because of this reason? You know, they could work a bit more, the Thais, to be honest. But saying that, not a lot of the time they're so good, you know, it's kind of, it doesn't matter anyway, you know.
Yeah, they're just more happy. They're just happy that they're getting 3 or 4 times
getting the opportunity to that's right, to go abroad and earn more money, you know, or earn a decent purse.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
with no pressure on them from the gamblers, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And over the years, who are some Westerner fighters that excite you that have made names for themselves in Thailand?
I mean, I love watching any of them do well. You know, I was kind of fortunate enough. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see Ramon Decker fight live in Lumpini, and also what was the other guy from Holland, from Orlando Wheat. I saw fight Lumpini way back in the day. But when I moved out here kind of permanently, but just almost 17 years ago, and you had the French guy Jean-Charles Skarborski there, and I was very fortunate when I first started to really get involved in Muay Thai media, taking photos. I got the press access to Lumpini and Matchman. It was around the time of Jean-Charles Skarborski. Brilliant. I mean, he's a great guy. John became friends over the years as well, and that was fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of it. When he was in his prime, he was one of those fighters that kind of go out, live by the sword, take the sword into the ring, be carried out on it sometimes because he'd go full on. He'd have to win or he'd get knocked out himself. Real entertainer. Who else? There's so many. Youssef, who's fighting tonight. I mean, if he wins tonight, which is a strong chances, he'll be the first Westerner to hold both Lumpini and Matchman titles. He's fighting for the Lumpini title tonight. I've seen a lot of Youssef's fights. He's always entertaining, been good to be around. Fabio Pinco, he kept one of the first foreigners to train at my gym. Who went on to become a friend as well. He's although he's probably not been full-on Thailand based, he won a Ratchaman title, and I was here for a lot of his big fights. It was always, which was very nice as well. There's so many though, I like seeing some of the younger guys coming through. Some of the guys coming through at Max now that have got a lot of potential. You had a couple of years ago, young Curtis Stitley from Australia. It was great being there when he was winning and winning the tournaments at Max. And Curtis, I've known since he was young as well, and his uncle. Mark as well trained with me before, so I love seeing any of the Westerners do well, to be honest.
And what about ties? Which ties excite you
right now? Or I mean, if you want to say which ties over the time I've been watching it, we probably need about another 2 or 3 hours. But I mean, since I've been working for Max, I've had to take the foot off the pedal a little bit stadium-wise. So I wouldn't say I've kind of got out of touch with it, but I just don't get the opportunity to go to the stadium so much. But there's still a few. I mean, Yodlek Pet recently, he's been on fire. I love all styles. There's no one particular style. You said to me, what do you prefer? More clinch and knee, or do you prefer to watch a punch? I love all of them. That's what one of the things that makes Muay Thai for me. There's so many different styles, so many different variations. You can go and watch a fighter like Steve back in the past, Anawak Gauss, walk out, bang, knock someone out with one shot.
Yeah.
And you get people say, but he's not technical. He'd never beat Sanchai. He's just a puncher. But so what? He can fill a stadium because people just want to see, is he going to get that knockout or not? And you'll know you're going to be in for an exciting fight. Sanchai's the same. I can watch Sanchai all day long. He's so technical, skillful. The very good clinch and knee fighters. I'm a massive fan of, in recent years, the way it's kind of gone with the clinch and knee guys, where kind of like, if you're really good at making weight, and so you've got a bit of a bigger advantage over opponent, and then you just wait for 3 rounds, you don't really do a lot. Round 4, you come out, grab them in the clinch, they can't move, they're paralysed because you're so strong, they throw you down a few times and they win. That I'm not such a fan of, but that's kind of the way the sport's gone a little bit, unfortunately. But I like a good clinch and knee fight as well. If it's 3-4 rounds, action packed, and great technique as well. I like watching the different variations of the clinch. Tall clinch and knee fighter is going to fight with a different style to a shorter guy that's going to come in and get the lock around the neck, that kind of thing. I love all styles. So I've gone off on a proper tangent there because you was asking me all I liked, wouldn't you? But yeah, Yodlek Pet's one of my favourites at the minute. Trying to think of the real technical guys around right now that catch the eye. There's I see so many fights that my brain's kind of gone into a bit of a blur, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, there's loads of great fighters out there still. It's still although I've gone over a lot of the problems now and the changes of how it used to be, there's still there's still a lot of great fights and a lot of great fighters out there. So the sport's still very much alive.
Can I tell you who my favourite Thai fighter is, and he doesn't fight anymore?
Go on then.
Siui.
Oh yeah, yeah, Sealy. I mean, the cannibal. You know,
He
that name. I don't know if you know where the name Sealy came from.
It came from a guy that used to eat the
Serial
hearts
killer.
of kids, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a liver. I think he used to eat everything. He was a famous Thai serial killer, Sealy. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because sorry, go on, mate.
yeah. Basically, he was a serial killer, and like you say, he used to get his victims and eat part of them and cook them. It's Sealy. I remember him before he kind of fought in the stadiums. I used to work for Kea, and he used to come down to Kea before fights because he had a connection there. He's actually from the Hill tribes, I think, up in Chiang Mai.
That's correct.
He's one of the Hill tribes. I forget what tribe, but great fighter, great fighter. I mean, you never ever watch a dull fight with Sealy.
No, mate. Well, that's what I want to say because I trained at the same gym as him before it
Yeah.
shut down. KC Muay Thai was called for.
That's right, Kevin's gym.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin's a friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Like I watched him. It was probably he was towards the end of his career, but he fought. It would have been 2013 when he left Bangkok and he come up to Chiang Mai, and we went and watched him fight at a festival a couple of hours outside of Chiang Mai. And Zui was actually as sick as a dog. He had the flu, and he probably shouldn't have been fighting. But anyways, I remember just standing ringside watching him, and mate, he ended up losing the fight on points because he was sick.
Yeah.
He faded in rounds 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget, and I've never felt like this. I've never been so mesmerised and scared. And scared for his opponent at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certain fighters like that when you look at them and you think just like, oh god, I wouldn't want to be up against him because you know you just know you need to be in the fittest shape you've ever been in your life for a start, and your concentration has to be there, and you make one mistake and you're going to be in for a lot of pain, and it's unrelenting as well, you know.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, mate. He doesn't understand what stop and go take a backward step. He just goes forward. He just goes forward for 5 rounds, and he's looking to elbow your face off from round 1, basically.
That's right.
And he's not afraid to get elbowed himself either.
That's right. Yeah, those kind of fighters are scary. I mean, they don't have massive long careers, but when they are there, you have to savour every minute of it because they're a bit special.
Oh, he is, man, and he's actually like a friend of mine. We always catch up and stuff, but I ended up saying to him, like, for his last couple of fights, I was like, mate, please stop fighting, because every time you fight, you get your nose broken or you get something wrong, and just please don't fight.
Fighters like that, they generally need someone to tell them. You know, it's kind of they don't realise themselves, and they kind of still think they can go out and do what they used to do. You know. But guys like Sanchai, you know, they kind of he's going to go on for a long time. You know, at the moment, fighting guys, foreigners not at his level, and you know, you can't see him stopping for a while yet. Because he's got that IQ, and he very, very rarely gets hurt. You know.
Yeah, he's smart. And mate, one question I did want to ask you is, many years ago, they used to allow foreigners to fight at Channel 7 Stadium, but now no foreigners are allowed to fight, and it's Thais
That's
only.
right.
Do you know why they stopped that?
To be honest with you, I can't remember the fault. I'm pretty sure though it was they have a lot of sponsors there, and I think it was just basically they wanted to keep the sponsors happy with just having Thai fights. You know, obviously it's a main TV show. It's the premier TV show in Thailand. So I think I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't know if you could actually quote me on this, and I might be wrong, but I think it was more effective that the sponsors just want to keep it all Thai.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, because I remember. I even think at one point they didn't sell the Channel 7 shorts because I was trying to find a pair, and you couldn't get them. But then now I think someone was telling me that they sell them at the shop just outside the ring now. They do sell them?
Possibly. I mean, you know, if there's a chance for someone to make a few baht, then I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it'd be silly not to, really, wouldn't they? You know, there's a lot of foreigners go there now as well. You know, there's a special section there. I think words kind of... Sorry, another train going past. I think words kind of got out. The likes of the Lonely Planet and the backpackers. Oh, you can see Muay Thai for free. You know, you go here on a Sunday. So there's always quite a big crowds of foreigners now compared to how it used to be. You know, you kind of set a separate section aside for them to get in. You know.
Yep, I've been one of them foreigners sitting up the back.
Yeah.
And you can't move once you get
Yeah,
in
once
there.
you're in, that's it. There's no way you're going to get out until after the show. It's horrendous crushing it. I mean, I'm surprised that well, I suppose it's because it's in Thailand. If it was in the West, the health and safety laws would be kind of blown out the window by then. But
Yeah, because we saw a couple of foreigners get up halfway through just to go to the toilet, and we were just thinking, "There's no way you're sitting back in that seat. Your seat's gone."
Yeah.
Now, mate, I have to say, I reckon you've got one of the best gigs in the world. You get into all the big stadiums and shows for free. You get all areas access, and you are the lead commentator on Max Muay Thai. Can you tell us how you landed that gig?
Well, basically, it's just an accumulation of connections and work over the years. I've been I think I had my first pass to get into Lumpini was around about 2003, 2004. So, or maybe Ratcham was 2004 and Lumpini was about 2004, 2005. So I've been working for a long time. All the promoters, everyone knows me, all the Thai press know me, and I got my first ever break commentating on a small show when I first went to Kea, and that through that it got me some more work, and I got involved with a guy that has a website, Muay Thai 2000. He was selling DVDs. He said, "Oh, can you come and commentate over the DVDs for me, put the English soundtrack on?" And that led to some more work, and then Thai Fight came along and said, "Oh, will you work for us?" Worked for Thai Fight for a little while, and the same guy that I did the DVD for, he was involved with Pet Indie Promotions, and that was my first real big break. He was like, "Oh, can you come and work at Lumpini on a Saturday night?" And I was like, "Oh yes, working on a Thai TV show at Lumpini Stadium, living a dream." I mean, in terms of finance and money, you're not, but it's still you get a little bit of money for it, not a lot, but just the buzz of being at Lumpini Stadium. And I was working on that show for a little while. Then the stadium itself, they had a show in the afternoon. It was it's an army stadium. It was an army channel, had a show on a Saturday afternoon, and they put it to the chief of the stadium. "Oh, he's doing this Lumpini Pechini show. Why don't we have him on this show?" "No, because he's going all around the world." So I got another gig at Lumpini in the afternoon. Then the stadium moved, and I got to work on the Channel 5 show, which was a big channel, And when Max started, I mean, the original, when it first started, it's changed owners now. When it first started, it was owned by the boss of Top King, the owner of Top King, and he's a good friend of mine. And he straight away said, "Oh, Rob, you're going to do the commentary." So I did the first few shows. The first year they did, I think, 5 or 6 shows. There was a few in Thailand. The first one was up in Surin, in Burakao's hometown. And then the last one of that year, when I had the final of the tournament, it was in Phon Ken in Sagetdale. Fought Victor Nagby for the Max tournament title.
Yeah.
And then after that, someone else took over, and they, "Oh, we're going to do a weekly show now." And I was working at Lumpini at the time. I was one of the Lumpini commentators. "Oh yeah, do you fancy doing it?" And "Oh yeah, what about English?" "Oh, you're going to have to get Rob." And basically started right from the very first show. And then the first show in Bangkok, in a small stadium called Asiatique, and I think it was very high rent there. So they looked at, "Oh, well, we're going to move it to Pattaya. You're going to come down to Pattaya." And I was like, "Oh God, trying to Pattaya every week." But the money was okay, and it was work, and I enjoyed the shows. So started there, and then they moved to Saturday show as well, then the Friday show, and it just got bigger and bigger. They built their own stadium, and I've been part of the team right from the very first go, really. Great people to work with, the new owner, the guy that took over from the Top King. He's obviously seems to believe in me, because he's given me a lot of power. Right, you're going to be looking after the English commentary team. You bring in who you want, blah blah blah. So that's a bit of an honour, and he's got faith in me, and they're really good people to work for. The shows are great, very entertaining. Not always perfect, but you're never going to get perfect shows anywhere, especially matching up, when they're putting on as many shows as they do, trying to match up so many fights,
Yeah.
They have the odd mismatches or whatever, which is kind of natural, really. But they're great people to work for, so I've landed on my feet there, really.
Yeah, like I said, I think you've got one of the best gigs in the world, if I'm being honest.
It could do with paying a bit better, but, money's not everything, is it?
No, no, mate, you're doing what you love, so that's cool. So do you get to be home much? Like, do you drive back after the shows at night time, or they put you up?
Yeah, I mean, they've got rooms at the back of the stadium, so I've got my own room there if I want. I don't stay every night. My boy is 6, so he misses his dad, so I kind of drive back some nights, so I could take him to school in the morning and just drive back down. And, you know, you couldn't do that every day because obviously it's 4 hours there and back. It'd kill me, but
Yeah.
So I'll maybe I'll stay there two or 3 nights a week and stay at home 4 nights.
And mate,
4 or 5 nights.
Just before I let you head, I haven't been keeping a close eye on it, but the IFMA Games have just been happening.
Yep.
And that's down in Mexico. And
That's right.
Last week, England were at one stage 7 from 7 fights. They'd won 7 from 7.
Yeah.
You just want to talk about how the England team's going? Because are you good friends with the head coach?
I'm not sure, mate. To be honest with you, I'm not sure who the head coach is. slightly embarrassing, but yeah. But you know, I think it's great that countries are putting more into the amateur side as well. You know, obviously it's going to help the sport grow if they do. You know, some countries do it a lot more than others. We get people come and train here. We've got some countries coming with you. Some of them they actually earn money. You know, the government have given them sponsorship to take part. I mean, I'd love to see that happen to England. You know, obviously you'd like to see that in Australia. You know, really give them some proper funding to really push the boat out and go for it. You know, but it's growing all the time. You know, and it's always good to see the all the fighters do well. Especially, obviously, I'm English, so I like to see the England team do well. But yeah.
I think they've also got a good junior development
That's right.
thing going on over there because they've got like the Knockout series for the
Yeah.
juniors over there as well. So it's
There's a lot of options. There's a few promotions for the youngsters to fight on, and you know, and there's some big shows coming through. Knockout obviously is a very big show. There's some other ones, Panko, that are doing a similar sort of thing as well. And it's great, you know, the more big shows like that competing against each other to a certain degree. If they're working together with each other as well, even better. You know, it's only going to help the sport grow. You know.
Definitely, mate. Definitely, and they've already got some great superstars coming out, like Jordan Watson, Liam Harrison.
The level of fighters from England is, you know, it's quite impressive, really, for how the sport is kind of supported to a certain degree. You know, it's strange. I went to see Round Decker fight Dida in Paris, and Rob Carman fought on the same show. I think he fought Rick Rufus, and there was something like 10,000-15,000 people crowd. I mean, I'd love to see that happen in England. It hasn't happened yet. I mean, you can see why the French are so strong, because they've got so much support for the sport as well, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously that takes time. But it's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger in England, you know, and one day hopefully it will kind of be at that level as well.
Now, mate, just before I let you head, if people want to follow you, contact you, or they want more info about Kea Pong Tip Gym, how can they find out all that information?
Well, there's obviously Facebook with there's a Kea Pong Tip website, KIATPHONTIP gym GYM www.com. That's the main website. We have a Facebook page with Kea Pong Tip. That you'll probably go to the one in here, and there's a my wife's brother. He moved to England now. John Pop. He's got a gym in England, so there's a kind of a Kea Pong Tip in the UK as well. But we're very closely connected, obviously. Instagram. There's a Kea Pong Tip. Kea Pong Tip Gym Instagram page as well, where you can find that info. I've also got my own Instagram, Rob BKK, ROBBKK, which I put a lot of the fight photos on you as well. Anyone's interested in checking them out as well.
Awesome, mate. And last but certainly not least, is there anyone you want to thank or give a shout out to?
I mean, we won't listen to this, but obviously there's probably 3 main people that have really got me where I am today. The first was the owner of Kea Smith Gym, and Jantip, or Timon Singson, was his old name. He kind of gave me the opportunity to go down to work for them and push me, got me my first commentary job. And then there's another guy, Mick Nakon, who was the owner of Muay Thai 2000 website, another one that's got me a lot of help where I am. He's the owner of the Fighter Muay Thai brand now, and he's also the Ratchaman promoter, Mitch someone else that helped push me where I am today. And last but not least, my big boss now, Mr. Nawat Tochadan, so the owner of Max, who's really, pushed me to excel there as well. So they're probably the main three people that I've got to shout out to. Other than that, anyone that's enjoyed what I've done work-wise or whatever, then and let me know about it, then it's all great.
Well, mate, it's been...
And obviously, thanks for the interview as well.
Oh, no, mate, I was going to say it's been an absolute honour and a privilege to have a chat with you, and I really, really appreciate it and really excited. So thank you very much for your time, mate, and keep up the great work, because I watch Max all the time and pretty much every Sunday, and I've got people and friends that fight, so yeah, I'm always keeping a close eye on the scene.
No problem. Thanks for having me, mate.
Thanks for your time, mate.
No problem.